Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Celebrating the return of warmer weather is a Canadian rite of passage, and trying new drinks in Tim's cold beverage lineup is a perfect way to toast the season. Their new Oreo Mocha Ice Cap is a twist on Tim's iconic Ice Cap, made even more irresistible, Ray, with a blend of mocha flavor, Oreo cookie pieces mixed right in. You get a little bit of that every single sip. And backed by popular demand, the epic Oreo double stuffed Ice Cap with Oreo cookie crumble. There's some vanilla syrup, vanilla flavored whipped topping, and even more Oreo cookie crumble on top. Nothing beats the Oreo cookie crumble on top. You want one right now, don't you, Mr.
I'm thinking about a dessert later on. Yeah, that's a snack for me. Like, I like that. Oh yeah.
So we're recording Wednesday here, and so today would be an off day for you, correct? Right? You had back-to-back games. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing on off day?
I've got some media stuff I'm gonna do. We got 3 or 4 things to do. I've got I got to change my travel. We have, when the house gets busy and there's a lack of communication in the house, somehow it just doesn't.
Familiar with it, sure.
Yeah, I'm talking to Riley, our 18-year-old. And by the way, I'm going to take a little aside here to be a proud dad for a moment. And Riley's on his way to Penn State to play soccer in July. We're so happy for him, and he is getting excited to go, and then all of a sudden Cammie and I realized, oh my God, he's leaving in 5 weeks. And it's 6 weeks, but I mean, we were like, oh my God, he's leaving. Like, it's crazy,
it's awesome, but it also sucks.
Yes. Yeah. So we're really proud and happy. Penn State's is pretty terrific school, and Rise earned his way there, so we're happy for him. But he's got a tournament. And I go, I'll see you on Friday. He goes, well, actually, Dad, I'm leaving on Wednesday. And I go, well, where are you going? And he's like, well, we've got that tournament in Maryland. And I go, in Maryland? I'm in Washington. And he goes, is that close? And I go, it's across the street. And so I'm going to stay and watch him play on Friday and Saturday. So I get 2. That's like, what a great little treat that was. So I'll see him play twice. And then I'm going to fly home Saturday night, and then I think I'm in Toronto for Game 5, assuming there's a Game 5 there, which I'm sure there will be. And so all of a sudden that was like, because we got a funky schedule. I'm like, man, travel sucks. And then, for the first time in a while, it put me in the right spot. So I'll watch them play on Friday and Saturday.
An unusual break. That is an unusual break. Good for you. That's exciting. Yeah.
So we're and the weather's good, and and we're doing some hockey, right? There's lots to watch still.
Well, speaking of, how about the nice, quick, clean overtime for you, right? Yes. Game 1, Washington, the Carolina Hurricanes. Last night, Jacob Slavin and the Hurricanes taking Game 1. I'm watching and I'm like, geez, isn't that just a staple of old-time hockey? Every coach in the league, playoff or regular season, you got to get bodies in the front, more shots from the point, all that kind of stuff. And there it is. I mean, there's bodies in front of Logan Thompson, and Slavin just finds a way to park it through early in overtime, which was also key.
We've had 2 overtimes in Washington. Ovi scored about 4 minutes in against Montreal in Game 1. And Slavin's was pretty quick last night. And I'm telling you, that game last night, so I think the shots ended up like 34-14, something like that.
Yeah.
It looked like the Capitals were wearing runners and Carolina was on skates. Like they could not keep up. And Carolina's game is like, when they get it in the offensive zone, it's like, I call it like air hockey. You just, you remember when you're playing air hockey, you just shoot it and that little disc bounces all over the place, and sometimes it goes in the net and sometimes it doesn't. And it's like this frenetic thing where I'm not sure how many chances they were generating. And then I think back, they hit the post 4 times.
Yeah.
Like that game was, Washington had a 1-0 lead and the game wasn't really close. Like stylistically, statistically, any way you looked at it, Carolina should have been ahead. And it was the right result last night, but man, Carolina, I can see why originally they traded for Rantanen. Like they needed and need a simple scorer, and they don't have many of those. And they get Stankoven back in the trade, and now he's got 3 goals in the playoffs, and it was a hell of a goal to tie the game up. And there's game 1. Now Washington's got to figure out a way to go faster, but we'll see if they can do that.
All right. Well, game 1 in Vegas, the Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. We'll talk about that coming up here in headlines, brought to us by Acon. If you're a skilled tradesperson or construction pro looking for work in Western Canada, Acon wants to hear from you. Acon is a North American construction leader, proud to be one of Canada's original industrial contractors. They're building some of the largest multi-year industrial projects in Western Canada and want you to be a part of it. Join Acon now by sending your resume to trades@acon.com. Yeah, so Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll start there, but then we've got to get over to game 2. Obviously, Florida in Toronto for game 2. The nonsense that went on in game 1. You've got Winnipeg hosting the Dallas Stars in game 1 tonight, being Wednesday. Okay, let's go back to the Oilers and Golden Knights, game 1. I mean, not the start, obviously, Edmonton was looking for. Mark Stone with a couple in that first period, but there's Corey Perry. He just finds a way to show up, right, in the playoffs. That's what you pay him for. Cuts into that lead late in the first, and then huge goal by Draisaitl, less than a minute into the third. But when you look at how that game kind of weaved its way in Edmonton's favor, was it the momentum shift that Bruce Cassidy talked about post-game in the second period? And was that kind of sparked on by Corey Perry cutting into the Vegas lead in the first?
I saw something today, and I totally forgot it. Like, not forgot it. I'd never even thought about it. When Corey Perry, he played against the Oilers in 2006, when the Oilers went to the final, right?
Right, yep.
It's 19 years later. Like, are you frickin' kidding me? Like, his career length and how not many guys move less, but know how to play better, right? Like he knows what he can't do. And I think he's probably been like that most of his career. He's like, okay,
is that hockey IQ? Is that just yes, good hockey 100%. Sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I'm probably not going to win a lot of races. I'm not, but I'm big and I've got good hands around the net. And he knows, like, how many times does he kind of stick out one of his arms on the stick and deflect a pass? And then all of a sudden there's a turnover and he doesn't hang out in the corner. He goes and gets to the front of the net. Like if you watch him play, he covers about 30 feet and he goes side to side in these areas. He's never going from one corner to the other. Like he never puts himself in a bad spot. I'm really, I like watching him because not everybody can be racing around the ice.
Right.
You just can't. So the goal he scored, right, late in that period makes it 2-1. And then I was stunned with how the second period played out. Like, it looked like they were never going to get another shot, Vegas.
I know.
Right? Like, but they weren't even close to getting more shots. It was like a big nothing burger for Vegas. And you can say, oh, well, they didn't have a lot of energy because they got a bunch of guys, however many it is, that are sick. They, it wasn't their night, whatever you want to say. Or you can look at it and go, man, the Oilers played exactly how they needed to play and close again to how they played last year. Like that. Remember last year, they didn't win a bunch of games. As much as we talk about Leon and Connor, like, they didn't win a bunch of games 7-5.
No,
it's this time of year, and they just ground them down. Even like on that, I forget who took the penalty late. Vegas had a power play late. I'm trying to think whoever took the penalty.
Connor Brown on the goalie interference.
Thanks, right. Beat Connor Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pickard made a couple of saves, but and you'd say, okay, those are good saves, but It's not like Vegas just overwhelmed them and they just hung on. Like,
Right.
they're doing it's really impressive. And that the other stat was like 5 straight comeback wins in the playoffs. Like that doesn't really happen a whole lot. And like more teams are coming back and winning this year. I think that's 12 times now in the playoffs that the team behind has won in the third period. Like they were behind going into the third period and they've won 12 times already. And it's good for the game. It's not like it used to be where if you had that lead, it was freaking over, man. But impressive stuff for Edmonton.
All right, well, let's look forward to Game 2 of Florida and Toronto tonight. But before we do that, I mean, we've got to clean up what happened in Game 1.
Yep.
So Anthony Stolarz went to hospital. He was evaluated. He was released. Told that he was feeling much better. Obviously, I mean, the guy was hurling on the ice over the bench in Game 1 after taking a puck to the mask early in the hockey game, and then you had the Sam Bennett situation. So before we look forward to Game 2, just your view on the Bennett scenario and the outcry. Is it just the market, the volume, or did you see? To me, it was a penalty. All right, Sam Bennett should have received a penalty on the ice. Should have got a penalty.
Right.
Beyond that, I mean, I don't know. We know Department of Player Safety looks at everything. I didn't read it as suspendable, but you know, the noise in the market just elevated the storyline, and in my opinion, overshadowed a pretty good game by the Maple Leafs. Sure, they bent when Joe Woll came in to replace Stolarz and let in a couple that weren't very pretty, but tough scenario for him. Let's see how he is in Game 2. But just your thoughts on the Bennett shiv to the head of Anthony Stolarz, and if more could have been or should have been done.
Well, I think he should have had a penalty. I think if a player's not pushed and makes contact with the goalie in the blue, it should be a penalty. And I think you can, in most cases, simplify that rule. Is it contact? Is he fighting for the puck? You know, you can simplify that by if there's body contact in the crease, then it probably should be a penalty. That one should have been a penalty. But because it was a missed call on the ice, and if you look at the official, he's in the position he's supposed to be. He's on the other side of the net. Yeah. The only position you could have seen that clearly is if you were standing behind the net, and nobody's standing behind the net. So he was on the other side. What degree of contact he sees? Yeah, I mean, you can only see what you can see. And then when sometimes people bitch about, oh, the official at the outside the blue line called it. That's why the official outside the blue line calls it, because he's got a better look looking in.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at the play, he would have been somewhat shielded. In any case, it should have been a penalty. That to me doesn't the fact that he came out of the game because he's vomiting all over the place, or vomiting in the bucket would not be dramatic, but nobody until later put together the connection of the early shot that knocked his mask off with him shaking his head, which happens probably more than we think, and then the Bennett hit. Like it doesn't, and furthermore, I see people putting, Bennett did this last year and he did that the year before. And it is interesting, right? It's the same guy. But what happened last year, unless there was a suspension and it's on his record, or a fine and it's on his record, it doesn't matter. You can't say this guy's been, this guy's right up to the line 19 years in a row. Use whatever number you want. If they're not suspended, they're not on his record. You can't suppose anything. The video is the fact, and they rule on it. And I didn't think it was a suspension. I thought it, like you, I thought it was a penalty. I thought Florida was brutal in the first game until the last 10 or 12 minutes. Like That did not look like them. That, like, Bobrovsky was not with it on the first Nylander goal.
No.
They had a coverage breakdown, which they don't do very often on the second one. Nylander I loved his finish. That he got the puck up. That was awesome.
Yeah, on the knee.
What turned out to be the game winner, they got 4 guys on the ice. Like, when does Florida play like that? Never.
No, not very often.
So if you're Florida, I think the point is, okay, whatever we thought this series is, like, the Leafs came to play the game that they played. Right? Like, this is how they've been trying to play. And the 5 spot they got is, that's kind of un-Toronto-like of late. But, man, the Florida's going to have to get to work here. I think they will. I think they'll be much better in the second game. They get Ekblad back, which is a big piece on their defense. I think Florida will be better. Their top line, like Matthews' line, did an awesome job against Barkov and Reinhart. They weren't really much of a factor. And as far as if we want to talk about this right down the middle, like right before the Nyes goal, probably a trip on Reinhart at the post,
sure,
on the back door, right? Like, but those things are like, that's why I don't like the complaining about one call, irrespective of Bennett and Stolarz.
Right,
I don't
there's
like
often
it because
a balance, right? Yeah,
there most often is. The best team won game 1.
Yeah,
and now they got to get to work in game 2.
Credit to Craig Berube, because just on a hunch, he puts Pacioretty with Willie Nylander and John Tavares in Game 6 in the Battle of Ontario. And they had instant chemistry. And you can see what you have in Patch, right? Not dissimilar to Corey Perry. He knows the player that he has to be now to be impactful. And that's the player that he is. And to me, Ray, Florida's going to have to make some adjustments to figure out that line. Nylander was next level in game 1. And the other player, Nyes. So, those 2 guys, Nylander because of how that line is working, but Nylander and Nyes, obviously might be a problem for the Florida Panthers if they can continue to play the way they did in game 1.
Okay, so let's assume they have another good night, right? That the Nylander, Tavares, Pacioretty, Nyes, like the way they all played, right? Now, Nyes, by the way, I love watching that kid. He is he is the modern power forward.
He is, yeah.
Like his size, he's 225 pounds or whatever he is. He's a monster. The way he skates, the hands that he has, the willingness to use the body, that's today's power forward. Yeah. And it's funny, in just a couple of years now, I can guarantee you teams are looking at him and going, that's the type of player we want to find.
Yes.
We got to go find him. And the problem is there's not a whole bunch of them coming. And so, because it's a unique player set. Like you say, Florida's got to do something about them. Well, that's the top 2 lines, the Tavares, Matthews, Barkov, Bennett matches are going like, that's what it's going to be. Who's going to outplay the others? And why I think it's critical for Toronto to outplay the Florida top end is I don't think their bottom end can outplay like Florida's third line.
Oh, like terrific.
Lundell, Loserinen, and Marchand. If you look at the game, as the game went on, they started to get more and more chances off the rush. Florida did. Toronto's D started to sag back, and it was a lot of that third line. And Marchand had a couple of mishandles where he had a chance to shoot. He's not going to mishandle those all the time. Like he came in off the rush, he walked into the middle and mishandled it a bit. I thought, if I just quickly go through the Leafs there, like Nylander was terrific. I thought on the first 2 goals, Tavares made plays that get him no points, and he screened the goalie on the first one. The second one, he drove the net and took 2 Panthers with him off to the side, and that left Nylander wide open in front. I thought he was great. Pacioretty had the 2 assists. The reinvention or the reinvention of what he is in his own head had to happen, right, for him to play. But then you have to have the gut, the willingness to do it, because he didn't go from a really gritty player to a super skilled player. He went the other way. Yeah, that's hard to do, but you have to have the willingness to do it. I thought Matthews was really good, really good. Does seem behind the play a little bit. You know, that does, like, not like he doesn't seem to be leading the rush as much, like out in the open ice. And I don't know if that's a stylistic change or just a change, but it just seemed different. But I thought he was really, really very good. And I thought the Florida top end, like, did you notice Tkachuk much? Not at all.
Not a lot.
Bennett scored with the goalie out. Reinhart had 1 or 2 chances. And that was about it. Barkov was really quiet. Toronto's top end outplayed the Panthers in the first game.
All right, Dallas opening in Winnipeg. So before we preview, again, we're kind of darting all over. We're Wednesday here, so we have to look back. What a brilliant Game 7 that was Sunday in Winnipeg. I mean, I had the pleasure of being in that building, which was rocking, obviously. I mean, it has in every game of the postseason so far. Cole Perfetti with his second redirect of the game to tie it with mere seconds left. Then you've got Adam Lowry in double overtime. I mean, it goes off his leg. Like he said post-game, you know, you dream of scoring goals like that, but I don't think I've ever dreamt of having it go in off my leg. My dream would have been different and maybe a little bit more creative. I mean, there was so much euphoria in that building when Lowry scored to clinch the series. I'll bet you that crowd just went, probably went to their establishments post-game, maybe had a couple beers, and then straight to the wrapper, emotionally and mentally spent, exhausted with everything that went in. So take us back to your experience in watching that Game 7 and what we might expect tonight in Game 1 against Dallas.
Well, the night before, I was in Dallas, and that was one of the most incredible last 10 minutes of a period that I've seen. And the fact that it was Rantanen against his former team, and he gets 4 points, and like I thought that is just amazing. What a perfect Game 7 scenario. And then,
by the way, hold on, let me just interject though. What did you hear? What did you see? Like, you were between the benches, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you what he was yelling after he scored.
No. I don't want to put you in that spot, but we could see it from afar. But there's no question, no doubt that he's trying. Like, the message was so obvious that Mikko Rantanen was sending, not to his buddies, former teammates in Colorado, to the organization, probably to management. Like, you effed up. You effed
not
up,
management,
and I'm going to show you.
Not players. Sorry, that was to management. And I mean, you would know more than me. Yeah. Somewhere in that negotiation, there was a game of broken telephone.
Yeah.
Colorado, no matter what they were going to do in that trade, ended up in second place. The questions about Marty Necas in the playoffs that Carolina had showed up in Colorado. So they made those moves, and Necas didn't have a very good playoff. Coyle didn't have a goal in the series. Nelson didn't have a goal. Like, the moves they made did not pay off. And that, I know that happens sometimes, but the jubilation to the crushing defeat. Yeah. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm watching, so Scott Wedgwood's the backup goalie. I can reach out and touch him, and Casey DeSmith's the backup goalie. I can touch him. That's how small the area is. And just the difference in those two guys as they were watching that third period, and then down the bench, and the deflation in Colorado, it was stunning. Yeah. Stunning, Dregs. And again, you guys have chronicled the way it all fell apart.
Right.
But they traded him to the moon, right? They traded him to Carolina. They traded him as far away as they could. For him to end up in their backyard is the worst possible scenario of all time. Somebody used this line. We were in Dallas. They're like, that's like you getting divorced and your ex-wife moves back next door with a billionaire. and I was like, wow, that's probably a pretty good line. And so you got to sit there and go, he should be on our team.
Yeah.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And now they're out and Dallas goes on. So that gets us to Winnipeg, which, I mean, the Jets, they lose Morrissey. They don't have Scheifele. Like Hellebuck gives up the one goal. You're like, yeah, again. And like when it was 3-1, like the third goal was not a very good goal either.
Right.
I'm trying to think who scored it for St. Louis.
Faxa.
Beat him up over the glove. Yeah, up
3-on-2,
over the glove.
Faxa.
Yeah, but it was in the middle of the net.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not. So this is what I observed I'll start with Hellebuck. He made about 3 or 4 or 5 saves in the third and overtime where he was up way on top of the crease, actually out of the blue. And
yes.
I wondered if he finally said, F it. I play deep and I'm getting burned. Screw it. I'm getting out here. Because on each of those saves, if you look at it, he's outside the blue, and that's generally not how he plays. And I was like, man, good for him. He just said, that doesn't work. This is what I'm doing. And if I were shooting, I would be shooting high on him because he's deep in the net. When the goalie's deeper, the angle off your blade allows for more elevation. So that's where I would have been shooting. So I would have come down and shot it. And now all of a sudden, this 6'5" guy is 3 feet further out. It changes everything.
Yeah.
So he made those saves. There was a tweet put out. There was 2 seconds left. It was the score bug. And somebody took a screenshot of it, however, and it showed St. Louis 3, Winnipeg 2. St. Louis leads the series 3-2, or a series tied 3-3. And the tweet was, somehow the team on the bottom won. And I was like, it was really, and to think of what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my goofy brain, but all of it had to happen in the order it did, or there's no tying goal, right? So Ehlers had to fan on the shot, the first shot. He had to fan on it because that made everybody move and pivot towards the puck.
Right.
And then when the puck comes to him, he's got to know that the player across the seam is there.
Kyle Connor.
That's Kyle Connor, right? He's got to know he's there. And when he takes it and flings it, if the puck is a foot on either side, there's no play, right?
Right.
Connor has to time that catch and shoot. It's got to be perfect. Do you know how hard that is? That puck's coming 60 miles an hour across there, and he times it like that. And then Perfetti, if he's a foot either way, none of that works.
Yeah.
And then it's in the net. Like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, what the just happened? Like, how did all that, like, how did that just happen?
It was nuts.
And so, Dregs, you know the Perfettis.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah.
9 months ago, how were things going?
Not great. No,
not right. He was like, what am I going to do about my contract? The Jets wanted to bridge him, and they're grinding over the last bit of that contract. And 9 months later, you're like, that's the guy they drafted.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so for all these fans that are bitching and complaining about their young guys, we're not getting any production, you can't give up on the most talented ones because they're going to get it. And you give up on them. Like, say the Jets had said, screw it, and they trade him. Then somebody else gets that Cole Perfetti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's all of that goes in. And then, Lowry is salt of the earth, man. Like that guy is, I watch him play and I'm like, he's just a backbone player that you put in and never think about him again. Because you're like, whatever he's doing, it's going to get done.
Yeah.
And so, he his dream wasn't to bounce it in off his leg, but you know what? my first NHL goal was off my knee, and I didn't dream of it like that, but it's still my first goal. So good for the Jets. And now those teams it's like the trade deadline for them. Like it looks like Scheifele and Morrissey are going to be able to play it. I don't know in game one, but some point it looks like Robertson's in and Heiskanen's not far behind. Like you're like, it's like the trade. It's like Christmas for both of those teams. They somehow won, and now they're going to get their best players back. Really cool series that's going to be.
It's going to be a fun series, right? Do you think it'll be as heavy as St. Louis and Winnipeg was? Probably, right?
I think so, but I think St. Louis has a little more vigor to their game. Like I think St. Louis dragged that into
they hit Josh Morrissey every chance possible. Like he was targeted that entire series and ultimately wore him out.
That's basically should be your game plan against anybody that plays that many minutes, is that don't chip the puck away from them, chip it into their corner so that you can get early in the series, you can get contact on their guy. Yeah. And you hope to it's just like we talked game one in Edmonton or in Vegas and game one in Washington. The series is not lost.
No.
I know the road teams won both games. Series is not lost. No. It's a long thing. And that Dallas Winnipeg series is, I would be shocked if it's not, a drag them out series. Like that's really good stuff. Last thing I will say, it's impossible to win 9 straight seventh games, except Pete DeBoer has. So as much as we say, what can a coach do?
He does something.
He doesn't get flustered. He doesn't get rattled. It's 2-0, and Pete's back there. He looks like he's thinking about something else. When they're up 2-0, he never looks any different. Yeah. That guy's they lost. They got pumped in game one of that series. And I ran into Brendan Dillon, who played for Pete in San Jose. And we were talking before game one of Jersey, Carolina. And he goes, Pete will have him ready for game 2. He goes, that's what he does. And sure enough, they won in overtime and they win the series. 9-0 is crazy. It doesn't happen, except it just did.
It just did. All right, a couple of more items here in the Acon headlines, and then we'll get going here. And then outside of the playoff news, but related, Rob Blake out in Los Angeles, and right. I think I kind of hinted at this last week, but not that I had the inside information. I just had a sense in the conversations that I'd had historically with Blakey. It just was not surprising that they just decided, okay, we're going in a different direction here. But that was a mutual decision. And Rob Blake would say, all right, I've had 4 good years at this in terms of building this team to where I thought we were a legit contending team. And we ran into the Oilers and it didn't work. So it's time for somebody else to try. And, different vision of what this roster might look like. Let that guy decide if Jim Hiller's the coach, whatever changes are required in hockey operations. So this isn't your prototypical, all right, the owner's pissed off and he wants to get rid of management, fire the coach and scorched earth. That's not what happened here. This is Rob Blake going, I took my best crack at this. Collectively, we invested everything we had. It's time for somebody fresh to come in with different ideas. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's also again, and you know this because you talk to the managers, on not a daily, but pretty close to, that there is a human toll to this, and people get worn out. They're like worn out. They're exhausted. Yep. They've got family. They've got their kids. They've got their wife. You're getting older. You're like, you might not just have it in you anymore to go, do I have that 9-month fight in me to do this again, right? Get through the summer and weed through all the issues every team has.
So
and
hard.
Then get into the season, and every day is a fire put out somewhere. Yeah. And eventually, guys, they in most cases, they go, you know what? Enough. Heck, Doug Armstrong just did it in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been at it a long, long time. And he went, you know what? It's time. I'm going to move this on to Alex Steen. And, you know, and now they've got that transitional thing going. So I don't think I was surprised. It's always surprising to, you know, to see it. But when you think about it, I wasn't altogether surprised. You know, I played with Rob and, you know, I played with Luke, and we've had them on a pod, and they're good people. They're just, I was sad for them. It didn't work out in the way they wanted. And now somebody else can take a swing at it. And that becomes a little different than all the coaches that are out there. There's at least 7, probably 8, at least by the time this is all said and done. And becomes a transformational summer around the league. Okay.
Wrap up headlines with some international stuff. Okay. And it doesn't matter whether I wave the Canadian flag. It really doesn't. This is just a tip of the hat to Sidney Crosby, Nate MacKinnon, who MacKinnon, especially after just a gutting loss in Game 7, as you described, for the Avalanche, to follow his buddy Sid to Sweden to represent Canada at the Men's World Championship. And, you know, you've covered so many of these, and you understand the inner workings. I can only appreciate to a point how frustrating it must be for the management groups, not just in Canada, Team USA, you know, maybe all the Europeans seem to take it a little bit more seriously, if you will, from a player.
Oh, for sure they do.
Right?
For sure they do.
Yeah. And you see that firsthand. And I'm not going to pile on Connor Bedard or Nick Suzuki, who I think declined again. That's like 4 or 5 times for Suzuki with the Olympics.
Eventually, by the way, they stop asking.
Well, he may play himself. Maybe he has already into that conversation where it doesn't matter. He's that good, and you just you have.
But eventually, they stop asking. They're like, really?
Eventually, they just stop asking. I guess what I'm saying is, though, if Sidney Crosby can put everything that he's got going in his life aside at his age to yet again represent his country, that's a tough one for Bedard to go, I didn't like my experience last year. You know, I mean, wouldn't it benefit a young Connor Bedard to just hang out with Sid and MacKinnon? And there's other players that are going to be added here for the better part of 3 weeks.
I wondered when they knew, like when the management knew, like as I look back.
It would be late. It would be late. Yeah.
But they, you know, Sid was skating in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, look at him training for keeping sharp. And well, clearly he was keeping sharp for this.
Yeah.
But, you know, nobody really, I mean, I certainly didn't put it together. He played in the Worlds one time that I recall. He went over there, and the people in Europe,
Prague, like, I think, right?
Yeah. They hadn't, you know, when had they seen him live? Never. It was like Elvis dropped in the 50s. Like, it was crazy. The crowds around him, and you know, and Canada won. I think they won all 10 games that year, and you know, and now they go over there, and you know, they've got Sid and MacKinnon. I mean, that changes the entire outlook of the team.
Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, like, come on, what a story!
What a closing lap this is for Fleury. Like, I don't think there's anybody around the game that's not happy for him. And he's going to go over there. The last game he's going to play is going to be in a Canada jersey. One of the true great people in the game. And when I saw that he was going over there, I'm like, those guys are going to have so much fun.
So much fun. Because you remember Crosby and Fleury, the pranking and all the nonsense that's going to go on.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If I were any other guys on that team, I'd have my head up. Because those two guys aren't going to just prank each other.
No.
They're going to be like, because that tournament does get long. In the second week, you're like, holy, are we ever going home? And that's when I would suggest you keep your head up, because somebody might lose a skate or something, you know. But Sid is his love for the game, the fact that he hasn't been in the playoffs for a few years. We get to go do this again. Good on him. Lucky for those that get to watch overseas, and you know, to watch him and Nate and the Canadian team over there. I don't know whatever Bedard's thinking. I don't know, but I think there's a positive momentum that can be built out of this tournament. I really do. And I would have preferred him to say yes.
Agreed.
But
all right,
it's not me. But it's not me.
No,
I don't have to go.
Well,
he does.
He's entitled. Those are your headlines. Thank you to Akon. So let's wrap up this edition of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Wednesday night off. You got dinner plans? What's cooking for you?
No
Anything
plans
special?
yet. No plans yet. But there's
you've got to find somebody to buy you dinner. Come on.
Oh, I'll find that. You know that. You know, like I don't like to travel with a wallet.
No, you don't.
There's a baseball game at 12:35. I think I might go to maybe or drop in for a few innings. You know, nice day, sunny day. Just sit out, watch some baseball.
Yeah, why not?
Then I've here's the best part, Dregs, about working back-to-back games in a series. Mm-hmm. I don't have to grind away for the next game. I was there.
No. Yeah.
All the stuff I've got to do, I just watched it. So that doesn't happen very often.
Good for you.
So
all right.
It'll be a nice, relaxing day.
Well, enjoy it.
And you'll be getting ready for game 2. And good luck to you, Dregs. Be sharp. You got a good suit today?
Hold on, buddy. Double header for me today because I'm doing the Hot Zone on TSN, Leafs Panthers, followed by game 1 of Dallas and Winnipeg. So
like duty. The old days, the old double dip. Remember those in the studio?
I'm an employee.
Remember the old in the studio?
Yeah, but double invoice.
No. I don't mean double dip. I mean when we'd be in the studio at 1:30 in the morning, hoping that West game somebody score, please.
Yeah, cross-eyed, tired.
Somebody just shoot it in the net so we can go home.
Well, that could be the case tonight. So,
well, enjoy it, and I think we're going to try this out Friday again. Is the goal?
Hey, whatever works for you, my friend. Let's get her done.
We'll get her done one more time this week. Everybody, thanks for listening. Enjoy the start of round 2.
Yeah. All right, Ray. Thank you. Have a good day. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make this podcast possible. To our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. And thank you to Akon as well. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.